What's going on, good people? This video, I'm going to cover how to add some spam checking to your form on your website. Recently, I've been getting some spam submissions to my website. I started a business back in January of 2021, and when you sign up for a new domain name, which I did when I started this business, that domain name gets published on like a list of domains that have been purchased, within the past like week nature. And so, because of that, some of the spammers and scammers have looked at that list and found my domain name, went to the site, submitted the form on the site, and essentially have manipulated some of the controls in place that I've put to get that data to go through. So, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, and then we're going to do a little coding. All right, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. If you are visiting the channel for a repeat time, welcome back. Please be sure to subscribe. I have new videos every week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Today's video, as mentioned, we will be discussing technology and doing a little bit of coding. So I want to go ahead and pull up. This is one of the emails. I've copied it out of the actual email client, but this is one of the emails that I've received. As you can kind of see, it is spammy in nature because they're asking me to contact them uh, for planning how to use my domain. Obviously, I know what I'm doing with my domain name and am not interested in their services. The main thing that I'm really ticked off about with this particular email is the fact that they've manipulated some of the controls that I put in place to restrict the type of submissions that come through. So now I'm going to have to implement additional controls to prevent these type of submissions from coming through, in addition to flagging them accordingly and possibly even logging them still. So just to walk through what I currently have on the form. So this is the form. This is the raw HTML of that form. It's checking for first name, last name, email address, phone number, if your phone number accepts text messages, and then a description of what you are looking for to be done or whatnot. Now, the business I set up is a services business. So some of that is technology services, some of that is the DIY services. Essentially, the stuff that you're seeing that the videos that I make on this channel are going to be done through this business going forward. So I need way of customers to contact me to ask me questions. This form is one of those ways that they can do that. That being said, I don't want these spam submissions to continue to go through as they have done so. I believe at the time of this recording, it is February 2021. So within 2 months, I've gotten roughly 6 to 7 spam emails that have come through. And I want to try to cut that off in the beginning so that it's not a problem later on in the life of the business. All right, so for the email address, we have the system, we have the browser. The browser has the capabilities of validating email addresses. And so we have the name of email address as well as, I believe there's a type. Yeah, so type email so that you know that it's email address. Same thing when it comes to a phone number. We have the type of tel, which represents telephone number. And then I actually have, there's a attribute that you can set in here that is the pattern of what type of phone number that you expect to be entered. This is a regular expression. And so basically you have to enter in a number that matches this to get through. Well, if you notice that on the submission here, the phone number that he put in here, it does not match that regular expression, believe it or not. It's actually it's 10 digits, but he intentionally manipulated it so that, because in the United States, the area code is actually a 3-digit prefix. Is a three-digit area code with a 3-digit prefix with a 4-digit extension. And so he's kind of manipulated that form to get it to go through. And as you see, it's not formatted in the correct manner. It is still, overall, it is still 10 digits, but it's not the correct set. So what he did, I believe he did go into, because you can pull this up in DevTools. So when you go to your browser, let me do that real quick. So if you go into your browser and hit F12, And if you go to the elements on the page, you can actually make changes in here on this part of the page, and they will reflect actively. So he could have taken that placeholder text out just to get his number to go through in there and manipulated it accordingly. I'm not okay with that. So what I'm going to do is to uh, further validate that number. Also in this email, if you will look, he has placed links in the job description. Now, the customers that I'm interested in, they should not have any reason to send or put links in this form. They should be entering in data, asking specific questions, and so forth. If they're putting links in here, more than likely it is spam. And I've kind of seen a trend with the forms that they put in that, or the submissions that they put in, that there are links in there, legit or not legit links. So what I want to do is to be able to filter that out and flag it accordingly. All right. And I've also noticed some other things with the phone number, but that will be a different video. So this video, we're going to attempt to address this links in the description field. And while we're at it, we're going to check all the other fields to make sure they do not have any links in there either, because it is possible that that can be manipulated for them to get their data through the system. All right, so this is my form, and it is a PHP form, so this will be a PHP uh, coding addition that I will be, or adding PHP code to this so that it can be done. All right, so what I want is, and I've kind of contemplated this before starting this video, so but there, if you have different ways of doing this, feel free to drop a comment down below on your particular implementation. So what I want to do is to create a function. We're going to call it spam check. And right now, I'm not going to pass in any values. I will probably do that later on as we build out this thing. All right, so I want to do a spam check, and then I want to get the job description field. So we'll go down here and copy the ID, and so we'll pass in, so we'll do job description. And all right, so that will be the value that will be passed in to the spam check function. As I add to this, obviously those list of parameters will change, but for right now, this is the only one that will be used. All right, and so then I want to do a if. So I'm looking to see if there is a HTTP or contains HTTP, HTTPS, www, those type of values that are contained in the string. And if they are, then I want it to throw an exception to say as such, like, hey, looks like spam, we're not going to let it go through. And so I'm referencing the PHP documentation, php.net, if you don't know. I don't work a lot with PHP, but I do know how to go find the documentation. And the great thing about the PHP documentation, it actually does give you useful examples. So for instance, we're looking for, okay, so we're looking for this one where it contains a value, and if it does see that value, then it returns true. All right, so we'll come back to our code, and where are we? So str contains, and then we want to check the job description, and if it contains HTTP, all right, and so we wanted to check it if it contains HTTP, and it's not liking this for some reason. Not sure why. Function undefined. Let's come back to the documentation. That's correct, according to this. And it could be Visual Studio Code does not know how to deal with that. All right, and so I also want to make this case insensitive, because what I want to do is I want to change everything to lowercase. So we'll do this str string to lower, and turns a string back that is in lowercase. All right, so let's do, we'll go ahead and do job description. It's job descript, is that right? Yes, okay, that's right. So strto lower, and we'll do a job description in there. So that will change everything to lowercase, and then that way we don't have to do multiple case validation. Um, so now that we have that there, so if it contains HTTP or, and then essentially we're just going to copy the same string over again. So HTTPS, and then we'll put on next line. You also want to check for www dot. Also want to check for like a .com. What else we have? We have a .net. So .net. And last but not least, we'll put a .org in there. And the reason why I put those in there, those are the most common domain names. Domain names, and then you also have the protocols there. So that being said, that should check everything. And so if it does check that, what I want to do, and I have a condition down here. So we're going to say mail result. What I want to do is to throw an exception, not to throw an exception, to display a message that if any of these things are true, then it will display this message. So I will put in here invalid submission. It appears that your submission is spam, and yeah, it appears that your submission is spam and has been flagged. All right, so I'll probably come back and adjust that message at a later point in time, but that's kind of the gist of what I'm trying to achieve here. And so if you put anything in the description that has what looks like a URL, then it should be flagged accordingly, and it should display that message to the user accordingly. Now, the thing about it is, when you display those messages, sometimes those individuals that are intentionally doing illicit activities or trying to get you to buy something from them that you have no interest in even buying from them, a lot of times they'll back off because they know that this data is probably being logged somewhere, and in the worst case scenario, you can actually take that data and use it against them by filing a complaint to the domain host that they're using, or their ISP for sending spam or something of that nature. Now, if they're outside of the United States, that may be a little bit, the laws regarding that and the policies regarding that may be different. But in the United States, a lot of times when you do that, those host providers do get do look into it and take the necessary action if need be, because of the fact if they don't, that that is considered behavior that they can actually be sued for, or something similar of that nature, maybe even arbitration. So a lot of times they'll see this and they'll be like, okay, we're really not getting through. We'll have to find some kind of other way of doing that. And so, and I'll probably come back at a later point and change this message to make it a little bit more threatening in nature, especially if it's meeting this set of criteria. Um, and so what I want to do is really, I'm thinking, so I think I'm gonna do this instead. So if, actually, I'm gonna say this is going to, if any of those conditions are met, return true. And if you get all the way down here, then return false. And so this will, as I add more spam checks to this, I want it to be able to go through here and essentially to return a true or false at the very end. If it returns true, then obviously we'll change this to is or does appear I forgot I'm not writing C# code as I'm does appear to be spam. So that's a more appropriate name for what this function does. And so if you return true from this function, then it does appear. If you return false, that means it does not appear. All right. And from that, let's see. All right. So we have that message there. And so if I'm going to add a condition here that I'm going to change this to if else, and I'm going to add a condition here that if the appears spam. All right, and then I'm going to display that message if it appears to be spam format. Okay, that's not exactly how I thought it was going to do that. Really did that over. All right, so that way we're checking the spam stuff first. And if it is or it looks like to be spam, then it's not going to do anything else, regardless of what other errors may show up. And that's kind of what I really want to have it do. All right, so the next thing will be to call said function. So it does appear to be spam, and we're going to pass in the post. There we go. Variable of job description. And at the end of that, we're going to do a semicolon. All right. And so it returns to this variable, which is a pure spam. So we're going to put the return result into there and set it equal to that. And now you're probably asking, well, couldn't you just put the function call in the if statement? Yes. Do I foresee probably using this separately in the future? Yes. That's why I'm putting the return value into a variable instead of calling the function directly from the if statement. However, you can do the function directly from the if statement. All right, so that being said, if it is spam, we want, well, pretty much everything else will be there. I also want at some point to actually log this to a separate spam collection email address. So what I may do is I may still have this email go through, but flag it from the user's perspective, is flagged and says that it didn't go through. From the backend perspective, it actually will go through and be noted that this was a spam submission that was sent. And the main reason for doing it in that way is so that if as time goes on, I want to be able to create videos for you all to be able to understand how these spam patterns, these existing the patterns that they submit these data with. It usually has a pattern. From this one, like I mentioned earlier in the video, it has a link in a lot of the description forms, and I'm not interested in the link that people are putting in there, but I know it has a link. And so it's like, all right, well, if I know it has a link, I can filter out on anything that has a link. Likewise, in a future video, we'll be talking about phone number validation, because some of the submissions that actually use phone number validation use the 555 phone number instead of an actual legit phone number. And some of the other submissions, they've also used fake email addresses and email addresses that I know that are fake. So we're going to put, there'll be more videos discussing how to better control the spam that's submitted from your website. All right, so going back to this, let's see. So we do have, so we have our conditions here, and this could probably actually be cleaned up in a little bit better of a way. That you do a, let's say you do a loop on this, and if any of these match, then you throw a true. If not, you continue on through the rest of the form validations. But for right now, this if statement will work. I figure if it gets more than maybe another probably 5 or so items, maybe 4 items here, then we probably need to come back and revisit this logic here for this if. All right, so if we look at the workflow from top to bottom again, so we have this does appear to be spam function. So when a post request is submitted, and it comes down through here and we'll create the email. To be honest though, probably doesn't need that. So let's see. Okay, so technically, if it's spam submission, you don't even, well, you still kind of want to do this to be able to log the information, but outside of that, probably don't really do. But yeah, okay, so you call the does appear to be spam function, and you pass it in a job description. Then you check the contents of the job description to see if they contain any of these particular strings. If they do, then this function returns true. If it does not, then the function returns false. That value is then placed in the appear spam variable. It will check the email address And like I mentioned, I still wanted to send an email. This, when I have an automated deployment running, it will send it. It will enter in this email address. So this is that check in. This is that check and make sure that that automated testing email just returns true and doesn't actually send an email. Otherwise, you're going to actually go ahead and send an email, and probably need to update this to say spam, and we'll do spam in front of this. Oops. All right, and so that way we know it's spam or it has been flagged as spam. Actually, I need to modify that. Not there. Doesn't need to go. So we need to do a. Probably need to move this further down. I'm gonna think of it before. Well, we can just do it here. All right, so subject. I believe I can do a ternary operator here. So if we do if here spam, oops, is true, then we're going to do subject, and we're going to set it equal to yeah, we'll do spam here. So PAM with the previous subject that was provided, and oops, no parentheses. All right, and so this will append the subject that is from the email. So what I could also do here is pass this into this function and then group this into that function. But I may do that at a later time. All right, so now we have our email subject that's modified to note that it is spam or has been flagged as spam. And then from there, we'll still send the email because I still want to be able to do the analysis on this to further refine the code that's here for validating and checking spam submissions. And then last but not least, if the spam flag is true, then we want to say invalid submission, and this message gets displayed to the user. And then it appears your submission is spam and has been flagged. I'm not liking that message, but that'll do for this video. If this check passes, so basically if appear spam is false, then it will send the email, and if the email, well, it'll validate the email. But if it is true, if there's an error that occurs with sending the email, then it will throw this message. And actually, to be honest, this probably needs to be a separate function by itself because it's still going to send the email. Let's put that one back into it. So it still should send the email, but it should also display an error message up here for that. And so essentially, when you do a spam submission, you will get this message in addition to the message down. Well, no, it'll say your request will come through as successful. Yeah, okay. That's not exactly what I wanted. I may need to go back and do it now. Do. All right. And so that way, if it's a spam submission, we're not caring if the email actually goes through. I want it to come through, but we're not caring if it actually goes through or not. That being said, this can actually still be here, although is, in my opinion, it is a bad design of doing it this way. And the reason being is because of the fact you're checking multiple things in the same set of if conditions, and you're not checking that multiple things in most of those conditions. So let's see. All right, so I'll do it this way instead. All right, so we're going to leave that first part there. Then we're going to do if mail result is true and if appear spam is equal to false. All right, then and only then do you display this message. Otherwise, you're going to display this message. And that looks better, in my opinion, because you're not trying to check two different things within the same set of if conditions. We'll do trim on that and that. I'm not sure why the format throw that on. So that's pretty much it for this code here. So this will, like I say, future videos will come out in this discussing how to do more spam validation and checks. This is just the first of several. If you have any questions about this or PHP code, feel free to drop a comment down below. The source code for this website and this form is available on GitHub. I will put a link to the video notes page, and from there you can get to the source code and this particular file. By the time you watch this file may have changed several times over, but all of the changes will be in there in some shape, form, or fashion. Until next time, peace out.